Welcome to MadMat. Tonight we're in the salon with the first of many conversations with masters. Our topic is Beatitudes and Yoga. Our speakers are Father Anthony Randazzo and Swami Brahmananda Saraswati. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hi, my name is Swami Brahmananda. I'm disciple of Sankaracharya of Jyotirmat, Madhavasram Maharaj, and he's my teacher. I am just a monk from foothills of Himalayas. I grew up in an ashram and I enjoyed it. My name means channel of bliss. And when I was given this name by my teacher, he said, from now on, my purpose is, my service to people is simply to be a channel of bliss into their life.
Greetings. My name is Father Anthony Randazzo, presently the pastor of Notre Dame Roman Catholic Church in North Caldwell. I have been a Roman Catholic priest for 28 years. I began the practice of yoga 18 years ago when I first arrived as parish priest in North Caldwell, and the practice of faith and the practice of yoga have become an intricate, intimate part of my life. Presently, I am getting ready to move to a new assignment and have learned a great deal on how to go through transition in light of practicing yoga and practicing faith.
I want to start off really simply, and where we go is not limited to the questions that I have on my page, but the questions and the conversations that arise in the energy of this great congealing place. But for people who are not familiar, Father Anthony, would you just explain what the Beatitudes are and why they're important to Christians, and if they're also important to non-Christians?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm very happy to have received the invitation from Madalena and Ricky to engage the Swami in a dialogue and share this experience with all of you. It is indeed always an opportunity. Anytime we receive an invitation, it is sacred. I love the word invitation simply because it speaks volumes about human relationship. So I am delighted to accept the invitation and to share this time together. Yes, when it comes to Beatitudes and Christ, they are one in the same, in the sense that the teacher, the profile of Jesus of Nazareth as a first century Torah teacher, as someone who is recognized as a rabbi in his times, going about teaching, preaching, healing, and these Beatitudes becoming a central part of the core of the Sermon on the Mount. If you look at the Gospel of Matthew and you look at the Gospel of Luke, the Beatitudes are taught or preached or presented, one on the mountain, the other on the plain in the Gospel of Luke. But they are wisdom sayings. They are sayings that say a great deal about how to live, how to connect, how to be, and how to grow. They are not necessarily a creedal belief. They're not beliefs, but they're an ethic based on a story. The story of Jesus of Nazareth, who for many authors is called the man of the Beatitudes, having lived the Beatitudes. You could say the Beatitudes, you could sing the Beatitudes, but unless you live them, then they are just nicely printed on books. So today I hope that in sharing some of this, we'll get to the kernel of the wisdom of the Beatitudes.
So do you feel that non-Christian people can embrace the Beatitudes to the same degree that Christian people have been introduced?
Absolutely, yes. In fact, the Beatitudes are non-denominational. Because when you begin to explore blessed are the pure of heart, for they will see God, that doesn't necessarily speak to a denomination. That speaks to a spirituality. That speaks to the shared understanding of participating in the life of the divine. Out of a beatitude of that nature, then, it's inclusive. There's nothing about the Beatitudes that exclude. They, in fact, include. So as far as their reach to non-Christians, to other spiritualities and other denominations, they're just part of universal wisdom. Yeah.
Swami, what are the Yoga Sutras?
What are the Yoga Sutras? Well, before we talk about Yoga Sutras, the term yoga, we all hear about yoga. The question is, what is yoga? And then we'll go to Yoga Sutras. The term yoga, most of us think some kind of weird stretching exercise. It's good as exercise. But the yoga itself, the term means integration. So everybody is a born yogi, conscious or unconscious. As long as you integrate, you are an integrator. Yogi is simply a person who integrates. You see, it's our nature to integrate. You eat food, what do? You integrate. You grow up, you're born little. So, as long as you are integrating, you are doing yoga. That's the first thing to understand before we even try to understand anything else about yoga. And no matter who you are, what you do, whether you accept, now this is a choice. You can accept this nature, this very basic nature of yourself, that you are an integrator. Or you can, start to deny it, that no, I'm not, while continue doing it. And that can create a conflict. That can, create that you're building a house and then you're like, no, I don't want to build this house, and you can create a mess. And yoga is so powerful that it will even allow you that. It's my teacher, he used to say, and it's one of the things I always tell people, thanks to him. It's 3-year-old, I think, when he told me that life is simple. He said, you have 100% freedom, absolutely 100% freedom. I'm like, great. He said, but wait, there's a gift that comes with that. I'm like, what's that? He said, 100% responsibility. So, yogi is person who integrates. We all do, consciously, unconsciously. We can fight it by its basic instinct, one of the fundamental thing about you. And if you consciously want to accept it, then it's simple. Accept the freedom that is talked about in all the religions, but you don't need to even listen there. Just see your life, and every moment gives you the freedom, and then take responsibility of it. And we'll maybe talk more about that. Yoga Sutras, what Yoga Sutras are, it's a pretty little book, orange just like my robes. Blueprints of enlightenment. That's how a master, told me. And these are just simple little principles of integration. Not that you must follow them. It's more like a mathematical equation or theorem, Whether you prove gravity or not is not going to affect gravity. Gravity is there, right? Now, Newton, he went ahead and he just wrote a theorem, how it works. It makes it easy for us to deal with gravity, right? So integration is just like gravity. It's going to happen anyway. And this book, it simply has the theorems of integration, how this whole force of integration, which is so inherent in nature, works. So that's what it is. A simple book, totally unbiased, and gives you 100% freedom and responsibility. You can take it or leave it. It doesn't get hurt. It doesn't want to impose. And it simply tells you how this whole thing about integration works. Very simple, very precise. I speak a lot. This guy, Patanjali, who wrote it, he likes to count his words. So he says 3 words, 4 words, 5 words, and that's about it. And they're pretty cool. I love them. Yeah.
3, 4 words, that sounds pretty simple.
It is very simple.
But the structure of the universe sounds pretty complicated.
The blueprint of universe is very simple. You know, it's as our complicated minds it approached. It's funny why we didn't just stumble upon the concept of quarks or, you know, that basic waves of energy. No, we had to start somewhere where how this apple is falling down, you know. Not even quantum mechanics. You start with the Newtonian, you know, classical mechanics. So complicated. Gosh, I remember those physics classes. I was a smart child. You know, I like to say that. It's a nice thing to say to myself. And I still am. And it was tiring to read those books. But when you start reading about quarks or the energy fields, scientifically, you know, it's simple. It's so simple. There are 3 quarks, you know, 3 different spins. Combine them, just play Legos, you know, just like an infant can, and build things and put them in any way and create new different things. Total freedom, total responsibility, right on the playground. And it's simple. So life is very simple at the core. On the periphery, complicated. Not really. It's just very rich. It's just so full. You know, my teacher used to tell me this thing. He was a funny guy. He will always take me to strange places, make me look at strange things. One day he just took me a road, and we were there and things were going by. It's like, you know what, we're just going to sit down here for 5 hours. I was like, really? It's like, yes. And just make sure you don't get under a bus. We're just going to look at everything that goes by. I was like, okay, take a look. 5 hours, he wanted me to just look at not everything, the wheels that carried everything. I looked at it, and he said, what do you see? I said, I see a lot of different things that are moving. It's like, good, very good. What else you see? I said, well, things are different color, different shape. I was like, what is one thing that you find is common in everything here? I was like, well, things are moving, that's common, but things have tires. He said, well, tires are so different. Movements, yes, common, but movement at the same time, different kind of movements, different speeds, you know, different patterns, back and forth, reverse, third gear, you know, neutral, parked. So I said, well, let's see. And I couldn't figure out. He said, I'm not going to tell you. I'm like, really? So we wasted 5 hours? It's like, take it as you want. Well, third day, I was seated by the Ganges. You know, I grew up on the bank of a river, jungles. And I was just looking and looking and looking at things, and there were whirlpools. And I saw that the center of the whirlpool, it reminded me of wheels. It never moved. The whole whirlpool was moving, so much swirling, so many currents. The center didn't move. It's like, wow, I got the answer. I was feeling like a champion. I ran to my master. I'm like, you know what? Okay, well, I've been in college, so, you know, sometimes we say at your face, you know, like for the answer, but, you know, I was a kid, you know, I just went like, here, I got the answer. Center doesn't move. It's like, great. And that was it. Yeah, I was like, that's all you're going to give me? It's like, yes. So, center doesn't move. Simple.
Very simple.
But that not moving center creates so many things. It gets me from Indian airport to New York. The wheels, you know. What was the thing that happened here in New Jersey that, you know, got insurance companies in people's houses? The
storm.
The storm, right? Center was super silent. Look what it did. It created a mess around. A blender, the blades are sharp, things happen. Inside the center, something is absolutely not moving. Super, super. And the more firm, can you imagine using a wobbly blender, it will be a disaster, you know. The center moved, then things will really be complicated. So it doesn't move. So it's very simple at the core. And it's important for everything else to happen around. So same thing with yoga, you know, center, simple, very simple. Peripheries, I'm glad it's diverse. It would be so boring to have car with one speed, you know, or things that only went one way. It just will be terrible. So I'm glad that, you know, we have the freedom to, you know, go around and be diverse and stay still connected with such a simple truth that we don't even have to kind of fight with each other that, hey, is that common factor? No, it is. You can see it. I mean, no matter whether you're Christian or I'm, you know, born in Indian. I don't use word Hindu because it's a complicated thing. Simply saying I was born in India is enough. And, you know, there are people who follow the Jewish faith and Muslim faith and alien faith and all that stuff. And complicated, but the center, there's something very simple which we all share. We don't have to even talk about it. I don't even have to say the nature of what it is that we share. We all know there's something very simple that, you know, different wheels, different movements, different speeds, but something we all share, right? And we all know it. We don't have to talk about it. What we can do, though, which will help, I think, going forward, is we can maybe take a moment. Maybe we'll close our eyes just for a moment and honor that center, that not moving, that center that keeps us going, that is allowing all this to happen, that is allowing me to just speak my head off and you know, bore you guys maybe, and allowing him to, you know, tell us about the Beatitudes, and, you know, this whole thing is happening. So I think if you guys will be kind enough, I would like to close my eyes just for maybe a few seconds, you know, and I'll let you know when to open. Okay, let's just close our eyes. Yeah. Just be present and just breathe, that's all. Just be a witness. You can open your eyes whenever you want. Take your time. I love you guys.
Love you too.
Thank you.
So that's very profound. And I know from working with you, Father Anthony, that the Beatitudes are very profound. The question that I've always had is, why do so few people who practice these things, Christianity, yoga, know anything about the Beatitudes or anything about the Yoga Sutras? Why do yoga students say, no, I've heard of the Yoga Sutras. Why do Christians say Beatitudes? What are those Beatitudes?
Well, Madalena, that leads me to taking my green Bible and sharing the Beatitudes so we know exactly what the Beatitudes are about. And to share them from the longer version in the Gospel of Matthew. But it's very important to understand the context. For when you understand the Gospels, you are looking at a document that comes out of a community that has experienced the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth. So this is germinating out of a what we call Easter faith. There's a joy present in the formation of the text. Something that was lost, death of Jesus. Now they begin to say, no, he is alive again in a new way. So that's very important to understand that when we look at any of the Gospels, that they are Easter documents. That is to say, new life documents. But I'd like to just share the preface to the Beatitudes so you can see the context. Jesus went throughout Galilee teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and curing every disease and every sickness among the people. So his fame spread throughout all Syria, and they brought to him all the sick, those who were afflicted with various diseases and pains, demoniacs, epileptics, paralytics, and he cured them. And great crowds followed him from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and from beyond the Jordan. Earlier you asked about the appeal to a larger audience than Christians. Already we see that. Jesus is teaching a very diversified group of people here. And he's also teaching a group of people here who have a certain degree of brokenness, whether that brokenness is of the soul, of the body, of the mind. If you were to analyze those ailments, they all have something to do with the disruption of the internal unity of the human being. And so Jesus then teaches what he feels can bring back the internal unity by these simple, precise teachings. What are they? When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he had sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." Here in the Green Bible, that Beatitude's in green, by the way. In the past, when you had certain scriptures, they used to call it the red-lettered text, and the red letters were the words of Jesus. In this Bible, the Green Bible, those allusions to anything in the environment and the ecology are in green. That one's in green. Significant point.
I love green earth.
Yeah, green earth.
Better than planet Mars.
Better than planet Mars. Better than planet Mars, yes. So, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for their righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Rejoice and be glad. He's telling broken people after those teachings that what we have here will enable some gladness, some internal gladness, getting to the immovable center, getting to this return back to the omega point within, as Teilhard de Chardin, the great Jesuit, said, the omega point. So the Beatitudes, that wisdom, is a practice, like yoga. You don't just pick out a beatitude and expect that you're going to integrate the beatitude overnight. It is a lifetime practice. And it's a practice that comes with failure. It's a practice that comes with the human condition. It's a practice that says, well, maybe tomorrow I will be better at comforting those who mourn. For example, I was just at this afternoon with people who are mourning the death of a loved one. A famous coach in Caldwell had died, Andy Durborough. And Andy was not only a coach, but engaging Andy, who had been bedridden with MS for a number of years, also very much a wisdom teacher. When I spoke to Andy and I left his bedside, I always felt that my soul had in some way been shined by his words. Blessed are those who mourn. So when I went to his family just a few hours ago, I tried to comfort them in the lineage of this beatitude by saying, you know, your Andy was a wisdom teacher. He knew what wisdom was all about. His suffering and his limitations brought him to wisdom. So sometimes these beatitudes are taught to us not by the absolutely healthy, but by those who suffer. So this is the incredible way of integrating the Beatitudes into our spiritual journey.
I just feel so honored to be in this place at this time. This is a historic event. It's the first salon, I hope, of many. And it's just so inspiring to see this ecumenical spirit, incredible community of light forming here. It's so wonderful to see such great hope for the future and for humanity to have this experience going on in just this beautiful home in New Jersey. And I hope this is happening all over the planet and it's just going to spread out and network and little lights happening everywhere in the world.
It was a beautiful evening of the marriage between different religions, cultures, philosophies, practices, and understandings. They dropped so much wisdom, and my heart was forever changed this evening.
There was just wisdom pouring out, beautiful stories, heartfelt emotion, and it really just connected, for me, the idea that we're not so separate, that there's a certain foundation. Swami was talking about stillness. Father Anthony was talking about God, this central peace that is within us, that joins us all, and is expressed in the infinite ways that the universe can express itself.